Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Lewis Round F1 Update. This week has seen a lot of things going on. There's been car launches and also the first test has got underway in Jerez. So we'll start off then with the car launches. Now, it's gone all very quickly. From last Monday with Lotus, we've now seen pretty much every team except for Williams. Over this week we've had McLaren bring out a very revolutionary design car yet again, completely redeveloping on last year's car, not evolving it, being safe. They've gone completely for not an extreme, it's an aggressive approach, but not a stupid gamble. It's a calculated gamble, which could, I think, it could work out well for the team. We've also got Ferrari as well. They're a team that look as though they have played it safe, which is worrying because their last year's car wasn't the best in terms of actual lap pace. It was a good car in the race, but still not good enough to challenge for championship honours. So it'll be interesting to see, have Ferrari done enough over the winter to keep on being at the front. You've also got teams like Sauber who over the weekend launched their car. Their last year's car was very competitive, especially in races. The car was a bit inconsistent. Some races would be strong, some it wouldn't. But they believe this season they've got a much more solid car, and they could challenge the top 5. They managed to finish 6th. They were challenging Mercedes at the end of the season, so they could be back to the heights of when they were owned by BMW. Force India, they still haven't got a second driver confirmed. However, there's strong links that it's Bruno Senna is going to be joining the team. Jules Bianchi, they've stated that they don't want him to be in the seat yet. They want him to be a third driver again for this season, so that takes him out of the equation. It's either Adrian Sutil or Bruno Senna, but I've got a suspicion it's Bruno Senna's going to have the seat. It's not going to be announced until after these 4 days of testing at Jerez, but I think they've already, from my sources, they've already come with a decision, and it looks very much likely Bruno Senna will be partnering Paul di Resta. Also, we had Red Bull launching their car. Not much, it looks different from last year's car, but just like last season, you never know, they might come up with an update at the final test of the season, pre-season, and spice things up. And a lot of teams are hiding stuff. They're not going to put on everything straight away. The cars are going to be quite a bit different, so it's very early to read into anything. Now, yesterday Mercedes launched their car as well as Toro Rosso. Mercedes are going to be looked a lot more closely here now because of Lewis Hamilton being with the team. They have to improve from last year. The second half of the year was atrocious. They tend to have a pattern, Mercedes. At the beginning of the season they're competitive, but as it progresses they sort of lose where they were, and they can't afford to do that. I suppose Hamilton, I think, is with an open mind. He doesn't expect them to be challenging for the title. He's just out this season for the wins. Finally, Marussia and Caterham, they launched their cars today. Caterham's car looks a bit more, it does definitely look like an evolution of last year's car. A few more turning vanes to try and get the air channeling faster and creating more downforce. The Marussia car looks like a solidly built car. Again, another evolution of their car last season. However, there's still things I think they will have to add on, like these turning vanes. It does look a very bare car at the moment, so I'm hoping that that's what they're planning to do as they go through the pre-season tests. But still, those two teams, now we've lost HRT, I think those two will be the back teams. They have the smallest budget of all the teams, so it's really struggling for them. But hopefully this is the last season they have the struggle, because next year it's a clean sheet of paper. And just like Force India, if you remember, they were a team that struggled at the back until the new regulations came in, and it makes a whole new clean slate, and they're not having to catch up then. So I think Caterham and Marussia will have a far better chance of competing next season. But this year they'll be looking for, again, an improvement and closing in on the rest of the field. And finally, the Jerez test is on at the moment. The first day has gone, and Of course, there's no point looking into times. I'm not going to give you that because pretty much these 4 days, well, especially today, is all about checks, system checks, making sure the electrics work, reliability. Try and do as many laps as possible. See how it feels. It's a rough feeling, but they're not looking for performance. They're looking for basically reliability. Then they'll be doing some aerodynamic work where they'll be you'll see the aerodynamic flow paint, the visible paint, where they'll be tracking down, seeing whether what the simulator said for them is correct with what is actually going on the racetrack. So making sure that their computers are correct and that what's happening and what they predicted on the computer actually does generate more downforce. I suppose they wouldn't mind if they had any issues now because it means they can iron it out before the first race of the season. I think all teams would agree they'd rather have the problems now than it be a fine pre-season and all of a sudden mechanical problems flare up in the first few races, because that's when it will cost you, not at this stage of the year. Well, that's it for this week's F1 update. Thank you very much for listening. Next week we'll be talking about this week's winter test, and also any more news that develops. But until then, have a great week.